Good evening. Welcome to CanHammer, your source for 40K and Sigmar from the Great White North. Do I sound like Chris, guys? Do I sound like Chris?
Spot on.
Nailed it.
I don't quite have the good evening going, but I'm working on it. So, thank you for joining us for episode 150.
Woohoo!
150 episodes. Today we have two guests with us. We have the world famous, the Canadian famous, the most famous AOS player in Canada, apparently, Truong.
Apparently. We from We Call More Gaming.
That's right.
On YouTube.
And we're joined by another special guest, Mr. Paignton Wild. Say hi.
Hey guys.
Paignton, you unfortunately our live stream literally just broke down, so I'm gonna have to buy a new computer now. But you may recognize if you saw him, you would recognize him from a lot of my orc games recently, as he's been a new player on the scene with lots of orcs and been wanting to get a lot of games in. And we actually just played a game earlier today, which was super fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. I got lots of boys, and I got my orcs all pink and fancy, and yeah, I just moved to Ottawa recently, and I'm looking to get involved with the community, so super excited to be on the podcast tonight. Thanks for inviting me, Darren.
You've been hot and heavy. I think you've been to already like 3 or 4 tournaments, like just in the last few months.
Something like that, and we got Power Fist and Psychers next weekend, which is going to be great, so.
Yeah. For all those not going to the LVO, or watching Super Bowl this weekend or next weekend. It's this weekend, right? Yeah.
This weekend, yeah.
Last year it was on Super Bowl weekend, I think.
No, that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So, what we're going to talk about tonight is going to talk a little bit about some of the new Gene Stealer previews. A bit of a mix show tonight of 40K and AOS. We're going to talk a little bit about the Gene Stealer stuff. We're going to wrap up some top lists from CanCon. That's both AOS and 40K. And we're going to talk about some of the top lists from the AOS UK Masters, which is kind of their... they run like a yearly league, and the top, 16 players play in a big tournament at the end of the league. It's pretty cool. I like that. I was thinking of trying to do that for Ontario, but not sure how easy it would be. So, as usual, I'm your host, Darren. I got my two guests, as I already suggested. I would just want to thank our sponsors before we go any further. We've got Dan at Sequence Comics down in Brockville. We have Dave at Tista Minis. We have Martin over at Dyson Decks. And Hoyt up in Thunder Gifts and Games, our main sponsors. And also like to thank all of our patrons, both current and past and future. Interesting story about Martin. So, Martin's over in Liverpool in the UK. And so Scary, who was supposed to go to LVO, like in whatever, next week, right?
Yeah, next week.
Suddenly somehow discovered that his visa was invalid, or I don't know the exact problem with it, but his passport is not able to go to the States.
Yeah.
So literally in the span of like 3 hours.
Yeah, it was 3.5 hours, yeah.
He got $800 raised to buy a flight, go to the UK, and like get back. Because he had to do his UK passport stuff in person in the UK. Now, as somebody who had passport issues in the UK, I know they can be a pain in the butt. But so that's crazy. I think one of his big sponsors was going to match donations up to 400, so he only had to really raise 400. So it's crazy how quickly all that came together. And next thing you knew, he was on a plane going to England. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But Darren, do you realize this is a complete missed opportunity, though? I was looking forward to the episode of where they have those airport border security guards, and then they're like, and look at this guy with all this weird 40K like stuff, and then they just ask like all sorts of wacky questions. It would be the best episode of that show ever. That's like.
So I don't know what Scar's plan is. I think he's planning to go directly to the LVO from England, because like he's been chilling out with Martin at Dyson Decks, who also sponsors Scari's channel, and then he's also going to Warhammer World tomorrow, and so like I think he's just decided to make a trip of it and then head straight to LVO, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Scary, I think last time I checked was actually like 7th or 8th in the ITC.
He's currently 10th right now.
Okay. So there's some events.
Last I checked, yeah.
Which is still pretty good.
He's going to represent Team CanHammer, the LVO.
Is he playing CanHammer?
Yeah, he said he would.
Oh, really? All right, scary.
Yeah, he's just. I was watching one of his vlogs actually from I think the Brussels airport or something like that. And he was talking about how he's going to go and try to be Team CanHammer because CanHammer's making a push for one of the top LVO teams, and so he's going to try to support that. He was saying.
Yeah, I think last week we were second, but I think we dropped to third or fourth in the team rankings. Of course, we don't really get anything for the team rankings, but
bragging rights is important too.
Yeah, last week on the ITC, I was the top custodians player in Canada. What?
Oh, baby.
But there's a dude who's in third, and he's also in fourth. And if they just added his 2 scores, he'd be higher than me. But but I screenshotted it anyway, just for funsies.
Add that
Darren, if you'd like, I can attend the ceremonies. If you win top customs, I can just go up there and grab you, snag your award. You know what
I don't think you get anything though for just being Canada.
Oh, Canada only. I thought you were topping the ITC for customs.
No, dude. Don't be crazy.
Hey, I don't know, man.
No.
I bet that last year for Chris for Parser, so.
Yeah, no, Chris did well last year for a faction that nobody played, but
hey, it is what it is.
He's not here, so I can make fun of him.
Win is win.
Yeah. So let's what we're going to talk about tonight are those tournaments. Let's just start off a little bit by introducing Paignton. Paignton, why don't you tell people a little bit about your background in 40K and yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been playing 40K for about 5 years-ish. I started when I moved to Toronto the first time. I got in with a really great group of guys. They run a commission painting company out of Toronto called 4 Realms of Chaos.
Okay.
So there's Sydney, Tristan, and Desmond Furnett-Wing. Just a group of 3 brothers that run a painting company. And so I got in with them, and they just kind of started showing me the models and brought me into the basement, and we listened to nice rock and roll music and started building the miniatures. And I guess, yeah, that's where my love started. I started off playing Dark Angels and Space Wolves and stuff, and then kept playing that. And then in 7th, I played a lot of 40K and ran them as the good old 1,000-point unit, Death Star.
Yep.
And everything, and that was fun because, you know, D weapons were existing, and it was an interesting time for 40K. But then I took a bit of a break after 7th, and I played a little bit of Index Orcs, but not a whole bunch, because I was just kind of really excited for the Codex and always thought it was going to be around the corner. And then finally announced Orktober, and I got all hyped, and then, you know, comes November 6th or whatever it was, and they finally actually dropped the Orc Codex. And so ever since the Orc books dropped, I've just been trying to go really hard with 40K and kind of actually start to learn the game and how to play it, because when I played the Death Star, it just kind of played itself. You know, there's just a few dice rolls you had to make, and if you got the second power off, you won, and if you didn't, you lost, and there was no real nuance to it or, you know, planning ahead for turns. And I never really played ITC missions. Like, I wasn't in the tournament scene. There wasn't a very big tournament scene back in Regina, and so it wasn't huge. You know, we had a little community, but not super competitive. And so, yeah, since the Orc book has dropped, I've been trying to get as many reps in with the Orcs and try out a bunch of different lists. I've always been a fan of the Orc kind of biker list, and actually, at the end of 7th, I started playing like primarily Orcs because I just got tired of the Death Star and wanted to not just play one unit, and so I started running Orc Bikers, and I made Zarstark the Ripper my Warlord, and just ran a bunch of Bikers as troops, and that was super fun. And so, yeah, coming into 8th, I've been playing a lot of Orcs and trying out lots of different stuff. And yeah, and so kind of going forward, I'm going to keep playing Orcs and keep trying to improve on all my general skills, and, you know, maybe someday I'll beat Darren. We'll see how it goes.
Well, how many we've played, what, 3 times now?
3 times. Darren's 3-0 against me right now. So
3 different lists.
Yeah.
But yeah, today was the closest game, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a good game today. I need to get over the mentality that I don't have a Death Star that can just kill everything on the board, and I need to hold objectives sometimes. So
Yeah.
It's
How big
it's a
was
less
the Death Star? Huh?
I mean, in 7th edition, it was like 1,000 points, I think, or 1,500.
Are we talking about like Bark Star though? You ran like 40
Like-
dogs or something, or
No, it's like it was all characters.
It was just
in
like the
seven-
character
Oh.
thing with the Black
But
Knights,
characters.
the Command Squad,
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
okay,
a bunch of
okay.
guys with a 2-up invul, and
Rerollable.
you can only hit them on 6s, and then they
Because
invis. So essentially, they just moved up the board and destroyed everything, and then the last turn of the game, you spread them out and held objectives and won, and felt good about yourself. But
yeah,
it was
good old days.
it was the good old days of 7th, and sometimes they would get stomped on, and the guy would roll 6, and he would just pick up these 6 models. You go, okay, and that was the life of 7th. But I really feel like the game's turned a new leaf in 8th. Like not only with GW's customer service and their whole reaction and getting into the community and stuff, but the rule set for 8th seems a lot better in that even if you're playing a suboptimal list, you can still have a good game with somebody and have fun. So that's been awesome to see the community kind of shift and grow, and I think it'll just keep getting better and better moving forward.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question we ask all of our new guests. Are you a gamer, a hobbyist, or a fluff bunny?
Oh, so I guess throughout the summer, I was a hard fluff bunny. At my job, I listen to audiobooks every day. So I listened to the entire Horus Heresy series, and I listened to the entire Orc book series.
The Beast Arises thing?
Just Arises, yeah.
Yeah.
With all that, the Orc invasions, and I listened to a few of the kind of short stories, compilation not Orc, but Warhammer novels, and got really into the fluff. And one of my favorite books was the Wolfsbane, which is like about space wolves and Belisarius Call, and kind of his origin story and how badass he is. I really enjoyed that book, and so I definitely say I was a fluff bunny through that. And I mean, I've read all the Orc stuff there is to read. My favorite Orc story is about the Orc who went to the demon world, the Khorne demon world. Can't remember his name right now, but anyways, he essentially loved fighting so much that he went into the Eye of Terra, and Khorne valued him so much that he reincarnates him every day to fight more of Khorne's baddies on a Khorne planet, and it's just like the epitome of Orc culture. So I just love that story. So definitely say I've gotten into the fluff a lot, but I love building miniatures as well. I love like the freedom that Orcs gave you to just kind of throw stuff together and give it that ramshackle look, and I just love sticking a bunch of little bits together because I guess when I was younger I built a lot of Lego. So I love that aspect, and I've been trying to learn how to paint, but it's a slow process. I've, kind of started to learn airbrushing and stuff, and a little bit of dry brushing, and a little bit here and there, but I would definitely say I'm not primarily a hobbyist. And then, I guess since the Orc books come out, I've been trying to get good with the rules, and so I've been listening. I've been doing tons of reps. I can't even count how many games I played with Orcs so far, and I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts and kind of listening to Nick Donabody talk about Orcs and what he thinks about them, and so I guess I'm all the above then.
Cool. So what I want to do now is let's just go straight talking to some of the recent tournaments, and if we have time later we can come back to Gene Stealer, but I'm sure we're going to spend an episode talking about Gene Stealers once the book comes out. My 120 pure strains in the box over there are waiting to be unleashed. So let's talk about CanCon first of all. So CanCon, for anybody who's unaware, is I think is the biggest event in Australia for both AOS and 40K, I believe. It definitely is the biggest in the world for AOS, but obviously it's not bigger than LVO for 40K. But it's definitely the biggest in Australia, and it's pretty big. I can't remember how many players it was, but it was very large. So obviously, and they play ITC over there, and this hashtag's been floating around, hashtag Aussie Meta, for both 40k and for AOS. But I guess we'll see. We're going to be looking at some of the lists. So let's do Age of Sigmar first.
Hey, just Sigmar.
So Age of Sigmar. Hui, do you know what kind of missions they were running? Just standard, the usual stuff? Were they running realm rules and all that?
Yes, I think they were. But it's mostly right out of the GHB, as is pretty standard for most tournaments. So I think they were running realm rules.
Yeah, what's interesting in UK now, they really they use all the rules now. They use all the realm rules and all spells and stuff like that. They use those hidden agenda cards and stuff like that. Like, it's pretty hardcore. They're using everything. Here, I don't think we're using as much as that stuff. And Australia, I mean, it's all different, but in the UK, they're pretty hardcore on all of that, as we see when we go talk about the Masters. So, CanCon AOS was won by... Surprise, surprise. Khorne.
What? Khorne.
Gore Pilgrims.
Gore Pilgrims. I mean, it's a solid list. You know, feel like, oh well, so everyone knows the tricks behind it, but that really shows the benefit of good generalship, right? Like, you can take an army that everyone knows everything about, still come out on top. So.
Yeah, so like 2 Bloodthirsters, and then a bunch of the characters, and then not that many dudes, like 45 dudes in total, which is in AOS standards small. Like, that's a small army.
Yeah, that's right. But it's still a very solid list, I'd say. It's one of the things. I mean, the thing that from his list. So the winner, we should say his name, I guess, is Matt Campbell.
Matt Campbell,
he has a very standard kind of Gore Pilgrims thing, but the 2 Bloodthirsters definitely are very important as hammers, but also 10 Skull Reapers. Those models it's the kit that does either Wrathmongers or Skull Reapers. They do put out a lot of mortal wounds, so they will do a lot of damage to any unit they touch. So you don't see that unit very often in North America. I mean, like at the Boys, there was I'd say like a third of the armies were Khorne, and you never saw any units of Blood Reapers. Oh, sorry, of Skull Reapers. Yeah.
Well, for 10 of them, it's 340 points. That's the most expensive thing in his army. That's pretty expensive as far as the US really units go. Yeah. Well, they better be.
They are good, but that's the reason exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it doesn't smack you in the face of like, wow, this is like so crazy powerful. I feel like there must have been like a lot of really just tactical play that really got him to where he needed to be. You know.
Well, I tell you what, when we look through these lists as well as the AOS Masters lists, a lot of them don't just smack you in the face. It's not like the old, like, you know, a bajillion evocators sort of thing that just kind of were like 50 eels, you know, like it's not as obvious often where the power is, and maybe it's just well balanced and play the missions well. All right, let's go on to the second list. So the second and third were both Nagash lists. So just people were thinking that Nagash was kind of out of, like Nagash lists running Nagash himself were falling a bit out of favor and going more towards Legion of Sacrament with Arcan. But I think this shows that the old boy Nagash is still strong. And until we get a strong shooting meta, he might remain strong. These 2 lists are fairly similar, so both of them have Direwolves for battle line, 50 Grimghast Reapers as standard, Spell Portal, Nagash, and then Necromancer. I think you have to have Necromancer in a Grand Host list, basically, especially if you're running Reapers for the double attack. And then Nick Hohen, who came in second, was running a Vampire Lord with the Ether Quartz Brooch, which is something I've started seeing more of again recently. This that's what recycling.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It kind of disappeared for a while. I I think we're seeing it more now
It's
because
because that, I don't know.
yeah, maybe we're seeing because we're not seeing as much doppelganger cloak now. So maybe it's another sort of cool thing to run now. But so that's kind of your standard with the Vampire Lord. And then the third place was Michael Thompson. And instead of the Vampire Lord, he was running the Guardian of Souls with the Mortality Glass.
Yeah, super good unit. This is, I feel like if you're playing Nighthaunt or even Legion of the Ashes, this guy is like so good that I'd find a way to fit him in for every game.
Yeah,
so,
like that 9-inch kind of 1d6 charge. Can you imagine Paignton if in 40k I told you your boys only charge 1d6? That'd fuck you up, right?
That sounds like Tanglefoot Grenade, pretty much.
Yeah, so but Tanglefoot still is random. Like I could just roll a 1.
Yeah.
But this is literally you just roll 1 dice.
Wow, that's super powerful.
Yeah.
Is it targeted?
No, it's an aura, 9-inch aura.
Aura, wow.
Yeah.
That's really strong. So essentially, you hang out of 9 inches, but then you're on a 10-inch charge, which doesn't happen very often on 2d6.
Yeah, and then the other thing is in Sigmar, of course, you can't go within 3 inches. So even if you're as close as you can be, you still fail.
Right. Yeah.
Still fails 2/3 of the time. Third of the
Well,
time.
1d6, yeah.
yeah, or half the time.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, 1/3 of the time. Yeah, that's right. But still, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get on a 3 charge.
Being able to deny charge at 3 inches away that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing, of course, is the Mortality Glass gives you the Translocation spell, which gives your Nighthaunt unit, so i.e. the Reapers, a 6-inch move for freezies, basically. And if they fall back because of that, they can still charge. So it's like so good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think it's within 24 inches, so it doesn't have the usual like Nighthaunt kind of 12-inch wholly within sort of restriction either. So, yeah, no, it's a great unit for 140 points, and obviously if you're running Reapers, helps.
I have a theory about this unit is that like he's so good, but you don't see him come up in a lot of lists because I think he's not in the app, right?
No,
like
not.
there's nothing. Like, how do you get the scroll even? How do you get the model?
You have to buy the. So this was the model that was you could only get at the opening of a new GW, or on eBay, which is where I got mine. And then in the box comes the little scroll. But yeah, he's not in the app. But now apparently they started selling it again at Warhammer World. So maybe that's why in England we're seeing it pop up more. Yeah.
I mean, I just converted the damn thing and everything just because it's so good.
Yeah.
Right? So why not? I mean, if you bought like 2 Soul Wars boxes, you got an extra Guardian of Souls rolling around. Just slap a Mortality Glass in that, and Bob your uncle, you're good to go. You know?
Yeah.
But the model is nice though too. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, like painting these guys, like it took me like 20 minutes to paint that guy. Airbrush, pick out some metal, boom, done.
Boom.
And they look awesome too.
Yeah.
The joy of Nighthaunt.
All right, so number 4 was Joel McGrath, Beast of Chaos. Beast of Chaos had come a bit from nowhere, as we'll see when we talk about the UK Masters. But so he was running Beast Lord, 3 Great Bray Shamans, which I think is the special sauce, multiple small units of Gors and Ungors, 30 Bestigors, 6 Bulgors, and then 60 Ungor Raiders.
See, that's the secret sauce right there, Darren. 60 Ungor Raiders. Beautiful. Just they'll blot out the sun. Your arrows. Oh, I love those guys.
Yeah.
Models are awful, but the rules.
So why do you
models.
think we're just starting to see a lot of beasts now? Is it just because it's taken people that long to like paint the armies and stuff? Like literally just that, or
It would take a while. I mean, there's definitely a lag between when the book drops and when an army comes out. But like when you start really seeing it in the scene, Beast though, I don't know. It did really well, but it's not like there was a lot of Beasts of Chaos players at CanCon. So I mean, there was definitely some, but it's not like they were a big group. I don't think either. I think like it's a combination, right? Like money, time, all that stuff. So.
And well, GW is sold out of like all the Beasts of Chaos stuff. As soon once the Battletome dropped, it was like sold out for like a solid amount of time. Frontline Gaming actually had to send out some messages to their purchasers because like they just couldn't get the stock from GW. Like they promised them so much and it just wasn't there. It just like went out so fast. So I think a big part of it could be that people just didn't have the models to play it.
Yeah. Even with Orcs, I think that happened too, right? Like where they were.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think with 40K and Orcs, it was just like a lot of the old Orc players that had all their beautiful models in boxes and bags and shelves and stuff. got to bring them all out, and so that's why I think Orcs represented like 7% of the meta or something.
That's a lot. We're gonna see a lot of LVO. So what's interesting about this piece of chaos list that's different from the Masters, of course, there's no Zinch stuff here, no Zangors, those Enlightened, which is a strong part of that book. This is using the proper beasts. Yeah, which is cool.
You know what the thing is there? They were using best of gores, and that's why they did well, because they're the best.
They're the best.
Gores.
They're the best gores.
That's right. That's right.
First time. All right.
That's what it's like.
In fifth place, we've got Nathan Princey with Stormcast. Pretty standard Sequitors Evocators list. Mostly Sequitors and 6 Evocators on Dracolines. And triple Ballista.
Sounds like all the best stuff in Stormcast.
Yeah, and the Comet. Yeah, I tell you what's probably better than the Comet that I've felt firsthand now, the Mushroom. Mork's Mighty Mushroom. Oh my god, that thing is gross.
Very good. It's very good. It's a Gaunt Summoner, man.
It did like 25 mortals to me in one turn. It's like crazy. Crazy.
Ouch. Really good.
All right, then we have Ken Vance Ship playing Deepkin. We actually haven't seen a lot of Deepkin up at the top recently, and nobody played Deepkin at the Masters. But here we have the standard kind of King, Tidecaster, Soul Scryer, 18 Morsar Guard, 30 Thralls, and some Eternal Guards. So it's pretty standard kind of Deepkin build. He did pretty well, running Fuithan. Then we have Eddie McMichael playing Daughters. Again, we see no Daughters at the UK Masters. Everyone thought Ben Savo was going to play Daughters, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And this, again, standard. So triple Hag Queen. What do you think of triple Hag Queen?
It's redundancy, man. They're so cheap. 60 points.
Yeah.
You need that because people are wise to sniping her out, right? So
yeah, they're like
keep her around.
Cheap. They're way too cheap.
Super cheap. 60 points. Absurd.
Yeah.
Completely absurd. I don't know who thought that was like reasonable. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I get upset thinking about it.
Don't get too upset.
Sorry, got me riled up.
Flip a table.
So we got a Medusa, the Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron, 10 Sisters, 10 and 10 Witch Elves, and 40 Blood Sisters, which is the true hammers. When I was kind of building my Daughter's Army, which I have yet to play, unfortunately, I was looking at it and like, yeah, Witch Elves is cool, but that's really a red herring. It's these freaking sisters that can like pile into you from 6 inches away, so you can't attack them, but then they can attack you. Oh, that's dirty. That's dirty.
And they do the mortar wounds with their gaze, right? And they just pile in a bunch of attacks, right? So
yeah.
So they're really good. They're really, really good.
Good stuff. So what do you think? We'll kind of stop there at 6 or 7. What do you think? Is that fairly? How does this compare to sort of what you see around our area?
Oh, it's very different. It's very, very different. I mean, definitely internationally, even speaking, CanCon's meta is, I think it's its own thing. But
it's on an island.
It's an island of Age of Sigmar. These guys, but they've got some very creative stuff going on. But it kind of goes to show that like just because you're the bright shiny doesn't mean that you're going to be number one, right? Yeah, cool. I will see how much of that really filters into the Western, like Canadian American scene. How many people are really paying attention, and how much of that kind of gets pulled in. But I feel like Corn players specifically have to feel really good about how Corn did, right? Like, come on, give me a break, right? Like the biggest event, Corn finishes it, right? So If you're a corn player, you got hope. You don't just have to run Council of Blood. You know,
Blood for the Blood God, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
All right, well, let's segue over to the 40K side. For 40K, they were just playing straight ITC, I believe. So we have the top 3 lists here. It was a little bit difficult. There was not all the lists on BCP, and there was a lot of teeth gnashing by people about where are the lists, where are the lists. People get very upset about there not being lists. It's a little bit out of proportion to the magnitude of the problem. But anyway, there was a giant 240-page PDF with all the lists on it. And so we just searched the names, and we got the top 3 lists. So number 1 was Eric Lathuras, and he was playing Nids and Gene Stealer. I think this is I'm not going to say standard, because it's actually not super standard, but it's fairly standard. So so he had Leviathan, Neurothrope, Malanthrope, and then he had 25, 50, 100, 150 Termagants. That's a little bit not standard.
It's a lot of bodies. Yep.
Yeah, 150 Termagants. That's interesting. And then 2 Biovores, and then a Kraken one with 1 eye and a Broodlord, and 9 Rippers, so 3x3 Rippers. So, and then his Gene Stealers was basically 1 of each guy: Magus, Patriarch, and a Primus, and 18 Gene Stealers. What do you think about that? Because right now, really, we're seeing a lot of the Gene Stealers being in the Nids detachment, and then Gene Stealer cult running Abominants and Aberrants and like Primuses and Patriarchs for those nifty little psychic powers, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Maybe some Guard, or the Triple Vulture was a thing.
Or Basilisks have been a thing that's coming up too.
So what do you think of this 150 Termagants business?
I mean, if they're playing like standard ITC mission, I feel like the 150 bodies is just really good in a lot of matchups. I mean, it's like one of the primary reasons that orcs can be so competitive, because there's a lot of lists that aren't really suited to deal with that amount of bodies, and then when you run them with Leviathan too, they're pretty strong. And I mean, with the Neurothropes and stuff around, having that -1 hit bubble is just huge. And then they get +1 for cover too, which is just they're like actually pretty survivable. And then I feel like what's kind of interesting about his list is the little Kraken battalion that he's running.
Yeah.
So it's just Swarmlord and Old One Eye, right? And the 3 Rippers?
No, it's not Swarmlord. It's just Broodlord.
Broodlord, Old One Eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm assuming with that, his objective is just kind of slingshot good old One Eye and just like whip him at somebody, because Old One Eye gets the business done in combat. And so he's probably throwing that into a Knight if he can get it, if he can like clear the guard chaff or whatever and whip that guy into Castellan or something. I feel like that's the utility of the list, I guess, with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, 150 Termagants with Flesh Borers will kill a bunch of Guardsmen.
Yep.
Like a lot of Guardsmen.
It's a lot of shots.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting list. And
was he running them as a big 30-man Termagant squads, or small?
Like 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can he double shoot them? I can't remember if the stratagem's a
I can't remember, but
yeah, because he might be able to double shoot them. But yeah.
Yes.
It clears chaff, and then I'm assuming he uses the Gene Stealer cult to come in kind of later and then wrap up any guns or any gun line stuff.
Yeah, and Rippers are just so good in ITC because they just sit on something, you can't see them. 33 points, like you can't really 5 CP, you can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, and they can deep strike too, so they're just same as like Nurgling bases for Death Guard.
Yeah,
they're just really solid for coming down. Turn 3, just wait to drop in turn 3 till your opponent doesn't have much left, and then you're picking up hold more and stuff. And if you're able to get kill, you're really pulling ahead on points. So
yeah,
it's definitely a strong list, and yeah. I definitely see right tops.
Cool. Okay, well, that's cool to have Nids at the top there. So second list was Jeremy Martino with Deathwatch. So since this happened, Deathwatch has been going crazy. People were like, "Oh my God, what's Deathwatch?" Everybody's like, "Haha, where can I find all these storm bolters and storm shields?" And so literally, Deathwatch has been going crazy since he came in second at CanCon with them. I think we're gonna see a lot of Deathwatch at LVO though. I think it was already working up there. So kind of the quote-unquote standard Deathwatch battalion, so a Libby and a Watchmaster. And then your standard troop is a unit of veterans, 5 to 6 guys with storm shields and storm bolters. Basically, Deathwatch storm bolters are putting out 4 like -1 or better shots. Like, it's really quite crazy. And then anywhere from 1 to 3 Terminators. He actually ran some Terminators with the Cyclone Missile Launcher, which is interesting. But often people will just keep them with the stock Power Sword and Storm Bolters, just for more Storm Bolters. They're tanking small arms fire for you.
They're the 2-up, baby.
Yeah, one veteran for... and they also make it so that you don't take morale. One veteran for fallback and shoot, because he's the fly guy. And then he's running bikers for the teleport homer. And I think that also lets them fall back and charge, right? The biker?
Yeah, the biker does.
Not that you want to spend too much time in combat, but... so he's basically got 3 units of that combination, and we're talking a difference of 200 to 240 points depending on how many Terminators you have and stuff like that. But it's very flexible. Then he's got Guard, Loyal 32, Valhallan. Not 32 actually, because he's got a 30-man conscript unit.
Oh yeah, the 30 conscript Bob. Yeah.
So Valhallan is what does that do for them? I know they have the pistol, which means they don't run away, right?
I think so. It gives them the pistol to shoot. I'm not sure actually what Valhallan is off the top. Yeah.
So one of the things to do right now is to run conscripts are back because of the Emperor's Conclave Vigilist thing, which gives them wolfen abilities, and you run them as action.
they become the punchiest conscripts. I've seen them utilized versus orcs, and they're nasty. I mean, your 30 boys run in and you kill them, but then they fight in death and they just wipe you back. It's super strong. The Vigilus definitely gave Guard a super good buff with that.
And then the Wyvern at the end, of course. The Wyvern has started to come back. And then a Night Crusader. Yeah,
that's a super mean Wist. I played a Wist kind of similar to that. Up here with my orcs, and we had a really tight game. The Deathwatch squads, if they sit in cover, they're really hard to shift because you get that Terminator there. Yeah, well, and even if you're AP -1, the Terminator is still sitting on a 2-up, and so he can just tank for a long time, a lot longer than he should. And the Wist is really interesting because it's only kind of like quote unquote bad matchup is Knights. And you haven't really been seeing as many, like, primarily night, like, 5 Night Wists or 3 Night Wists. Because people have been kind of shying away from that because they're going up against so much Horde and stuff. So, since that's died down in the meta, this Deathwatch Wish has been able to come out and just wreck face. So, like, the one matchup that it's really good is the Dark Eldar Monster Mass matchup. So, like, the Talos and Grotesques, it just eats that matchup for breakfast because it can use the Poison 2-up shells. And it just shreds them because all the Deathwatch will shoot with their like 4-shot Storm Bolters, and they'll like hit on 2s with reroll, and then they'll like wound on 2s, and you can choose reroll 2 if you choose Elite or whatever with their tactics, and it just minces stuff.
Yeah, and they don't care about all your invulns or anything, right?
No, because it's just volume of fire. They're putting out so many shots. It's really nasty, and then they have like one of the best stratagems for dealing with orcs. I think it's called Stem the Green Tide for them. So essentially, like when the orc unit charges, they Overwatch, and for every model they kill in Overwatch, you subtract an inch from your charge.
Ouch!
So, and it's just for every model killed. So it works on like bikers, it works on everything, and it's nasty. It really, because they can also use their special ammunition in Overwatch too. So like, and I wound on 2s. All right. Okay, and it's ridiculous because I mean, if you're deep striking in and going for that 8-inch charge, they just kill like 5 guys, 6 guys, whatever. You're not making that charge anymore.
Yeah, no, it's super good, making runs great again.
Yeah, it's really nasty. And they also have a really strong stratagem versus Eldar. Versus any Eldari, or Ashiani, I guess, as they're called now, faction with the fly keyword. Can't remember exactly what the stratagem does, but it really helps versus the
They can intercept them.
Yeah, they intercept them, right, that's what it is. If they move within, it's not if they deep strike.
Yeah.
It's if the fly unit moves. So, like, Shining Spears and stuff get
just
kind of obliterated by that, too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
I guess the reason the Death Watch wish is so good is because it just kind of it counters Orcs and it counters Ynnari, which are two things that are super prevalent in the meta. And so I definitely think we'll be seeing more Death Watch.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that at LVO.
Yep.
Okay, and number 3 was Nurgle.
Ooh.
With 1, 2, 3, 4, 120 plague bearers, basically. That's kind of the list.
The ETC style list.
You could take this straight into AOS, man. It would be the same list. Literally.
Awful.
Just 120 plague bearers and some characters. That is literally the list.
That's the list. How many Demon Princes?
500 points in summoning. Probably summoning more plague bearers. No Demon Princes. So Poxbringer, Bile Piper, Scrivener, Bloodmaster, Fluxmaster, Fluxmaster.
Wow. That's a list that will not be fun to play against. The Plague Bearers, I think, are point for point the most survivable unit in 40k, I'm pretty sure. They're just ridiculously hard to move, and they make way too many feel no pains. And so, yeah, this is another one of those lists, probably like that like Termagant list, that just walks its bodies forward and just pressures you where it needs to with characters and just sits on objectives and holds more and denies you kill more. And then as soon as you start killing some models, they just roll their leadership and they roll 1 and the whole squad comes back, pretty much. So it's nasty. It's just a
Nurgle to me really illustrates to you right in your face the difference between a 5-up feel no pain and a 6-up feel no pain. Like 6-up feel no pains, you're not making many of those at all.
No,
you don't feel like you're making any, but 5-ups, you're like making that all the time, and it's like 5-up feel no pain. It's like so hardcore. So like if you took this list straight into AOS, 120 plague bears, can't remember how many points that would be, but like you'd probably do pretty good.
No, you get stumped. I'm sure you get stumped. You're too slow.
How are the objectives
these days?
They're fast then.
Yeah, man. The Scrivener blows his little bagpipe and tells them all to run faster.
Garbage. No, I mean, come on. Like plague bears are good, but like they hit like the softest. Like
they're a wet noodle.
They're the wettest noodle.
It's not
like,
fun.
They're on 32 mils, so like they can't even really play in 2 ranks. Who cares? Like they're not gonna kill shit. Like a good army would stomp that. I'm sure. Yeah. Like,
you ruined it for me.
And the other thing too is like the mission variety. Like you need wizards. You need like behemoths, right? Like so there's a kind of a need to have those different types of units around, right? So
can't just sit a bunch of bodies on objective and pick up bonus points.
You could do that, but like I don't think you're gonna win. Nope, deny it. You can have 1 unit of that. That's it. Maximum. That's it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Paignton, of the CanCon 40k top 3? You think we're gonna see a lot of that at LVO? Obviously, it's too late for those people to change their list, but
yeah, lists are locked in now, so everybody can come out of the woodworks with their lists. I think that a lot of the like top 10, say LVO, is really going to be determined by the general. I mean, when you get a player base together, like it's at 800 plus players or something, the spread of the lists is going to be crazy. And I don't know, I feel like this top 3 is really interesting. If anybody asked me to guess like a month ago what was going to top it, I would probably not have guessed like Nurgle. Like that's something that totally came out of nowhere. And I mean, I don't know the person who played this list, but like that would be a really interesting list to see played, because it would really be like a denial style list, in just zoning out your opponent and stuff like that. I think it'd be a really interesting game to see played. But I don't know if it has what it takes to really make it to the top, because I feel like if it went up against a list that was suited for doing with hordes, it would just get kind of steamrolled. I mean, I guess it has that 500 points for the flex with summoning, but I don't really feel like it can bring anything in that'll allow it to clear stuff. And like, there's definitely some like Dark Eldar lists that I feel would just walk right through this. As soon as you start throwing like 2 damage weapons at Plague Bearers, they just get rolled. So like, I think it's really interesting that Nurgle is topped, but I don't think that that'll necessarily top LVO. I feel like the Death Watch are a definite contender. I mean, Chapter Approved did all the right things for Death Watch, and so they're definitely sitting up there favored. I
think,
still expect,
you know, the Guard Blood Angels Castellan list,
Yep.
which is now mostly gone because of fly nerf.
Yep.
I think the Death Watch have just slotted right into there with less guard,
Yep.
and are providing not as much like one-shot night killing, but a lot of other killing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how that's happened. Just slot another Space Marine, because, you know, guard plus night is still like a nice combo, at least until they fix knights. So you just find something else to replace the Blood Angels with. That's super interesting how that's come around.
Yeah,
Darren.
and I definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go finish.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also expecting to see some Yunari up there, because I mean, there's a lot of people that have been playing Yunari competitively throughout the whole season, and so for them to switch last minute would be uncharacteristic, I guess. You know,
And Yunari's still strong.
Yunari is still amazing, and everybody was saying Orcs would just slaughter Eldar, but I disagree with that, because Yunari is still super strong, and like a big problem Orcs have is the chest clock. So as we can see with the recent tournament, there was an Orc player timed out at like one of the top tables and lost the game to Sean Naden. Sean was able to beat him because he timed out. And so like, since the game is at a competitive level now where it's going to be chest clocked at LVO, I think that you have to be a really good Orc player to bring the like Orc horde list and finish on time and play a really tight game. Because like, you know, if you have 5 hours to play, you can zone everything properly, you can screen everything properly. But like, if you're playing on a chess clock, you got to deploy really fast and you got to play really fast. And so an army like Yunari is really good for that, because you know they only have a few key units. They got their big shiny spears, maybe a couple flyers, and they got their big unit of Dark Reapers. And you know they can just take an allied Dark Eldar attachment. I think the new secret sauce now is triple Razor Wing Jet Fighter as the Dark Eldar, because
Or
they're hard to
8 flyers even.
Well, see, that's the thing. The Orc list, the Orc Ludas, you know, the Luda star for the Orcs is really scary for the flyers. The, like, you know, Aliatok Eldar flyers, the Hemlocks and all that stuff. Because, like, oh, they're -3 to hit, but Orc Ludas are just like, yeah, we auto hit in 5s and 6s. And so, you know, if the Eldar flyer list ran up against the Orc Luda bomb, it'd be a bad day. I mean, if they have Vect, I definitely think that they have a chance if they choose their Vect wisely. Because I mean, Agents of Vect is still a thing that's in the game, and it's just extremely powerful. And so, I definitely feel like that could be kind of a gatekeeper list, but I don't think it would have the punch to take it all the way to the top. But yeah, I think some of there's a lot of good players that are bringing Orcs, and their Orc lists are really spicy. And so, I mean, if they're practiced enough with the list that they can get through time, I think that they're going to have a really good shot at taking it.
Yep. Okay, so let's segue over to AOS UK Masters. So for people who are unaware, the UK Masters, basically, so in the UK, if you play AOS at tournaments, you basically get ranked at the end of the year on your tournament performance, and then the top 16 get invited to a Masters tournament, and whoever wins that tournament is kind of the UK Master for that year. So they held that last weekend or the weekend before, and it was won by Dan Bradshaw running Beasts of Chaos. So there's another beast at the top.
Amazing.
And he was running more heavy onto the Zangors, so 30
Yeah.
Zangors, 2x9 Enlightened, and a Zangor Shaman. But then a double Great Bray, 40 Ungors, and 10 Ungors, and the Geminids. So less kind of beastie, but still, you know, that's one of the strong points of the book. Really, is the Zangors.
Yeah.
So this is a 2 units of 9 that we're seeing here, right? Like it's not
2
9
units
units,
of
right?
9 Enlightened.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I actually, I kind of like that actually, like a big unit that goes because you know, I think a lot of people run MSU Enlightened, and I think a big unit of 9, it can take the hit and then it swings back and just murlates whatever it wants, right? So, and you're buffing it, so then it makes the buff even better, right? So,
Yeah.
it's really good. I mean, something that I haven't seen too many 9-men enlightened units, right? So,
Yeah.
it's a little scary. It's a little scary because they move fast. So,
And the more units you get into, or the more models you get into one unit, you know, the bigger your buffs are, because it just stacks that much more. So all your psychic buffs and stuff like that would just multiply them super hard.
Yeah, and you know, it's like Sigmar doesn't really incentivize MSU play. You know, it's a lot more hordy in general. I mean, you could say that probably about both games, but particularly Sigmar, you don't see a lot of MSU type lists because it doesn't seem to work that well. Other than like you're to get a couple of battle line just to stay at the back or something, but
yeah. Well, the thing is that the certainty that comes with Age of Sigmar in list composition, right? Like the more drops you are, the less likely you're going to be to get first turn.
Yeah.
Because if I know that I'm out dropping you, then whatever, I'm going to go first, or I can choose for you to go first. So there's a kind of a natural disincentive to really go MSU, right? Because if you have 15 drops, then see you later, right?
Yeah. There's also a little bit of points incentive to max out your unit size, and so. All right. Well, number 2 is Russ Veal running Legion of Blood.
Yes.
So Legion of Blood is Manfred's Legion, right? Who is probably universally seen as the worst Mortarch, maybe than Linder, maybe, but you know, she's a new addition. But nobody, I don't think I've ever seen Manfred, like even a model of Manfred, let alone him on the field. But his Legion is played here without Manfred, obviously. Russ Veal's got a Vampire Lord on Dragon, and with the Ethereal Amulet, which just makes that guy really hard to kill. Running Pinions on it, so it moves like 19 inches. Prince Vordry, who is basically a beefed up zombie lord, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Necromancer, which you have to have with Overwhelming Dread. The debuffs in Death are really nice. 3x5 Direwolves just for battle line, and 40 Grimgas Reapers. And a Mortis Engine.
Yeah, that's the most interesting part of this list, actually, the Mortis Engine. Well, also Vordry, but the Mortis Engine you don't see very often, I don't think. Would you run a Mortis Engine?
So he kind of gives you a cast, can spray some mortal wounds, and can do some healing, right, basically. It doesn't say here how many points it is, but it's not that expensive. I know that the guys at the Just Saying podcast really, really rate the Mortis Engine, that they're surprised we don't see more of it. Yeah. You
really don't. You don't ever see it. And I love the model. Like, I think it's just gorgeous, but it's something that I think it's going to really raise the profile of the Mortis Engine, right? For a lot of Depth players, a result like this, right? So maybe we'll start seeing it. I don't know, but I'd love to see it on the table. It's so nice.
You know why we don't see Manfred? Because painting that freaking horse is a pain in the ass. Oh my god. But yeah, so interesting list. So that's Legion of Blood in second and Legion of Blood in third with Steve Curtis. So again, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, basically exactly the same. Prince Vordry, Necromancer, 2x5 wolves and 10 dire wolves. And then the difference is he's only got 30 Grimgas Reapers instead of 40. Minor difference. He's got the Guardian Souls with the Mortality Glass, which we've already discussed. And he has a Corpse Cart. Now, I have a Corpse Cart and have literally played it in one game. it's super good if you run like a bajillion zombies, but it's not really the thing to do these days is to run a bajillion zombies. But that's some secret sauce there, the corpse cart. And he's got a Balewind, which is interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really, I think like they went over it, and I just, I don't know what happened. I blacked out what they talked about it on FaceHammer. They talked about all these lists, and I can't remember what the point of the corpse cart really was. But I mean, it must have. These are the top players, right, in the UK.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of intentionality behind how they built these lists, and so I'd like to get a little bit more into maybe re-dig into that analysis, right, to see what's the motivation behind having a corpse cart.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, like, to be honest. So
Does it bring utility, or like what's its real purpose in the army?
I really can't remember because I've never seen a corpse cart for a long time now. And it's also a pain in the ass model to build and to paint. But yeah. Also in fourth, we won't go too far down the list, but fourth was actually playing at the top table. So this was Richie from the Just Playing podcast. He was running Sylvaneth, which is just a butt ton of dryads and lots of casting, Alariel, and the Phoenix. So he's switched over to Winterleaf. He used to play the one with Durthu. Now he switched over to Winterleaf because the Phoenix is kind of broken for its price cost.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is one of the most popular lists on his Wargamer's website, right? Like, there's a lot of people that are very interested in this Sylvaneth list, right?
Yeah.
Winterleaf is very good.
Yeah. So what's interesting
I'm
is
gonna enjoy.
I wanted to build this list as a undead wood, like petrified wood, as the theme.
Yeah.
But apparently I need 110 dryads.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Oh.
Gotta get a lot of twigs.
Oh man. And
Those models are
9 tree
a pain in
bases.
the ass.
9 tree bases.
Yeah. They love Garan, man. That's like 3 or 4 in that one box. So
Oh man.
just get a couple of those, you're good to go.
Oh man.
I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
And just a honorable mention to the next place, which was Darren Watson running Seraphon. No Croak or anything, Slan, and 3 Engines of the Gods, and then a bunch of other stuff. Engines of the Gods still out there. Still doing their thing for the dinosaurs. So the rumor is that Seraphon might be the next book. Good.
There's a lot of like old pre-GHB jank still rolling around. Yeah. like Flesh Eater Course, man. You know, like that book was pre-GHB, really. You know, in terms of the book what they came out with, right? So
yeah,
a lot of that stuff needs to get fixed.
Yeah, and we've seen obviously Skaven and Flesh Eaters, so who knows what will be next? Yes. But if they come out with a playable dinosaur army, like all big T-Rexes and shit, I'm buying that. Oh, I'm so buying that.
Who doesn't want a monster mash? It's the dream.
You know what I should do is take some like 40k bits and stuff and make them into like Dinobots.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually seen some really cool.
Oh, I see your face, where you love it. You love it.
Converted Kroot armies is where it's at.
I mean, technically, they're not even real. These Seraphon. Okay, these are astral projections. These are demons. All Seraphon are demons. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's part of the lore of Seraphon.
Dinobots.
Dinobots past.
That's right. Like, their memories. That's all they are. That's my Skaven talking though. It's like, oh, Seraphon.
All right, cool. So that is kind of our tournament wrap up. Before we move on, we'll talk about upcoming tournaments. So we have P&P 12. It should be 13, but nobody's counting. Next weekend down in Brockville, and so that's kind of our local RTT series. RTT getting close to GT, except we need to have 5 rounds. So, but to get usually 20 to 25 people, so decent size. And then, of course, on Wednesday, registration opens at 8 p.m. Eastern for CanHammer Team Tournament, which is May 11th and 12th. So by the time you hear this, it might be too late. It depends on how long it takes Chris to get this out. But if you haven't been following our Facebook and you miss it, well, too bad for you, I'm afraid. It's going to be big. It's going to be 140 people. That's 28 teams of 5. ETC team style. It's going to be super. It's always super fun. There's a lot more to it than just playing. And a new venue, and it's going to be hotly contested, brand new missions and everything because of chapter approved. And their ETC Canada is bringing some teams, bringing some heat. So it's interesting. CanHammer team was originally kind of using it to practice for ETC, and then it wasn't really used too much for that purpose, but this year they're using it to practice for ETC. So there'll be some heat at the top end.
Bring them out.
Let's check out those Americans. The defending champs.
The world.
That's right.
And then mark it off on your calendars, August 16th, 17th, and 18th, Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa, our big annual event. We're probably, hopefully, hitting 150 to 200 for 40K this year, and hopefully breaking 80, maybe up to 100. You think you can wrestle up some AOS players?
I know a couple guys.
Guys. Okay.
Hit them up.
Yep. So it's going to be a big event. Friday, we are probably bringing back doubles, AOS and 40K doubles on the Friday, and then the singles championships on Saturday and Sunday. Gamer Garage sale, all the usual good stuff. Amazing venue, good food, and a really nice time to be in the capital. So mark it off your calendars, August 16th, 17th, 18th. That date is set. And we probably will talk more about it sort of as we get closer towards April, May. Cool. Any events in Toronto you want to plug there, Hui?
Definitely. We have the War Masters Age of Sigmar team tournament that's coming up June 8th and 9th. We actually oversold, so we have to move venues now. So we had originally planned for, we had planned for 10 teams, 4-man teams. And we got, on the first day, 16 teams all signed up and paid for. So that's 64 players. And we're now, I think that because we're in this next level of, we could still take in more teams as there's still interest out there. So don't think that just because we're at 16 that's the end of it. But definitely, we'll have to work out like logistics of everything else. But so June 8th, 9th. Come on down for some Age of Sigmar. It'll be in the Cambridge area.
So are you helping John run it, or are you just are you playing in it?
I'm playing in it. John's playing in it too.
Okay.
So he's got a team. So we'll have to figure out who's exactly doing the administration of all of that.
Everybody wants to play in their own event.
More than welcome to come. You're more than welcome to come there. You know, just enjoy the seat.
I think I am coming. I'm part of Team
CanHammer.
CanHammer.
Playing though. Oh, okay. So free wood for us. Okay, great.
Probably. We're bringing Weber, so.
Are you? Oh my God, that's your best player. So. No, cool. That's the big tournament that's coming up. Yeah.
All right. So the registration is still open for that?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, and you can find that on Facebook. AOS War Masters.
Yeah. It's called War Masters,
War Masters.
AOS team tournament. Yep.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Anyway, if people can't find it, just hit us up or hit me up, and we'll point you in the right direction. Cool beans. Mm-hmm. Okay, before we go, question for Paignton, mostly.
Yes.
The Gene Stealer cults now have Vect. Well, they have a stratagem that is basically Vect. Even the text is like exactly the same. Now, currently it's 3CP. Obviously, that's going to get FAQ'd to 4CP. Or else Drukhari players will literally
flip tables.
But what do you think? 2 armies with Vect now.
That's I don't know. I was recently on the the local community page here, and there's a massive chat going down about it right now, and people are getting pretty heated about it. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about it from a play perspective for 40K in general. I feel like in 8th edition, the stratagems have been like a real pivotal point of list building and really like added a lot of flavor to the armies. So like, I don't know, like looking at some cool like Blood Angels lists and stuff, and like Descent of Angels, and there's all sorts of like really cool key stratagems you can kind of focus units in your list around. And I feel like just giving armies just way to just shut them down is really dangerous and can really kind of swing the game and make it not as fun. Because, you know, if you're bringing all these really cool models and you got this cool combo plan or something, and